You know, Gareth Southgate told us that the difference was one opportunity in this game. And he's always talking about the margins are so small. Well, one of the reasons you could say that him and his team don't ever get past that final hurdle is because they don't try and get that extra little edge because of the way he plays the game. You know, if you start Bellingham there, the only thing you know is he's going to try and get in the box regardless of where he is.
But isn't that a little negative in itself? Because Bellingham has been playing so well in that World Premiere.
No, listen to what I'm saying.
Why don't you play Mainu in front of the back four, and that gives Declan Rice the freedom to play more forward?
So
why do you have to play a double pivot?
But if you listen to my point, the one thing you know about Bellingham is he's going to get forward. So you're going to end up getting something forward, and you're still going to have a little bit of defensive stability.
No,
as opposed to having Conor Gallagher or Calvin Phillips alongside Declan Rice, where you just got two guys who are going to sit there.
But why can't Mainu do what Jorginho's doing for Arsenal, which gives Rice the freedom?
You're going to turn around and start throwing this on Mainu and say Mainu's going to be the difference between winning the Euros. I don't think
I'm saying I don't think playing Bellingham further back is a constructive way of going forward. I understand what you're saying.
You know when you used to play 4-4-2? You had two midfielders, one would sit, the other one would help out defensively and get forward. That's exactly what he would do. You'll also have a Maddison or a Foden in the middle as well, which means that you're going to get forward. And I'm looking for the edge that Gareth Southgate's talking about, because according to him, it's a little edge that's the difference. There's one example of where you could get an edge.
Nedum has got his technical problems fixed. Nedum, Gareth Southgate, do you like or not?
Yeah, I like him, to be honest. I think it's funny listening to the guys, because obviously we can overreact to this, and they could win the game on Tuesday 4-0, and we'll say it doesn't matter as well. But I think in terms of the style of play and the way he spoke after the game, I don't think it was a great game for England at all. But off the top of my head, I don't remember tons of games like that where they've actually had a bad game. I think at times they've sort of underwhelmed, but realistically, I don't think it's that bad. And as I look at that team, you know that's not going to be the team that will start the tournament, even for as conservative as I think he can be, and he tends to lean into. You still seeing Kane go in there, you're seeing Saka go in there. I'm going to see probably more of an attacking midfield, I would say, because as he says himself, that role of a number 6 in England, he knows that there aren't too many who can do that role particularly well. So I think in some ways he'll play to his strengths when the time is needed. And he's trying to look at a few different things, people in different positions like Gordon, like Watkins getting a chance to play. But that's not the team that's going to be playing for England come the Euros. And to put it into perspective, we can overreact to this. But at the same time, Julien Laurent's magnificent France, they lose at home to Germany, who lose to everyone. So, they're just having just a better moment this weekend as, say, England did. But I think the concerns about Maguire and so on, yes, you could address those, some of the mistakes at the back. But the fact is, for England, they do win a lot of games. Yes, they might struggle in that final stage, but so does every team, barring one, which tends to be France in recent memory.
The defense for England cannot be France lost to Germany, so therefore we're okay. that cannot be the argument. I will say...
It's perspective. Oh, no, that's not the argument. No, that's not the argument. That's not the argument. I'm saying if we're going to overreact, let's overreact to everything.
But I don't think we're...
Otherwise, we're just missing the point, are we not?
Well, first of all, we'll get to that conversation in due time.
Well, we did it yesterday.
Okay, so we are not getting to that conversation any longer. All I'm suggesting is that this is not an overreaction, I don't believe, because it's a conversation that we have regularly about Gareth Southgate and about England. And why is it not an overreaction? Why it's actually a reaction to what they're doing is because it continues to be the pattern of this team. And we could focus on one individual player and say, well, he doesn't perform as well with the national team as he does with his club team. There's been thousands of players like that. But when you see a lot of the players from England not doing the same or having the same sort of performances that they have for their club teams, then you have to look for a pattern. You have to find a commonality, and that commonality is Gareth Southgate. So if you want to find the contrast and the context of this conversation, look at the rotation in the attacking half from Brazil. And look at the movement, the freedom of movement and the flexibility of movement of guys like Vini Jr., who starts on the left-hand side, but most of his dangerous play happening running in behind on the inside shoulder of the outside back or splitting the center backs. Who in England was doing that? Finding flexibility of movement, rotation of movement, appearing in different places in the attack. Nobody. That doesn't exist. And so that's my point. It's not an overreaction per se. It's just looking at a team that does exactly the same thing over and over again, regardless of the personnel, that doesn't have a whole lot of rotation and creativity in the attack, and therefore becomes very predictable in moments that truly matter. We're talking at the highest level. We're talking at the elite level of competition. And so if indeed they're going to be able to achieve what they think they're capable of achieving, they're going to have to be willing to take some chances. And part of taking chances is finding variety and creativity in the attack.
Nedum, if you look at someone like Phil Foden, very much in the conversation as one of the best players in the Premier League at the moment, we don't see that, or we certainly haven't seen it, have we, in an England shirt of late? You look at yesterday and it wasn't there.
No, it wasn't there. You're right. And it's fair to criticise the performance. And I think, you know, the point that Ali's making, say about Brazil, you see in Vinicius Junior, Rodrigo, people like that. You know, these, unless I'm wrong, these are starters for Brazil. I think at England there, you're seeing Watkins, you're seeing Gordon, and that's not really a combination you see very often. I think if you throw in a Kane in there, someone on that left-hand side, the link-ups are a bit different. I think even for Phil Foden, for as much as he can play high and wide, I think his best version of himself is when there's a fullback who will go all the way on that side and thus allow him to come inside, get more touches in around the box, affect the game, link up with Bellingham, link up with Kane. But, you know, that wasn't going to be the case yesterday, especially with Kyle Walker coming off so early. And in fairness to Konsa, like, he can play right back for Villa, but in my opinion, you know, he's a centre-back. So that's not the best version of what they can do. And yes, Foden has struggled at times for England, but you can see the potential. And how many of us really would be surprised if at certain points in this tournament coming up, the midfield would be a Rice, it would be a Bellingham, and it would be a Foden. You know, that's a way to link up those guys. And having a Kane ahead of that as well, I think you'll see the best attacking version of England, but maybe there is a concern about getting hit on the break. But, you know, going into the late stages of the tournament, maybe there'll only be certain teams that can do that. So yes, people don't necessarily perform to their best, but as Mark said at the very start, a friendly game at Wembley is always a really weird atmosphere. And I think that transferred onto the pitch, especially with some of the stars being out. And it led to, you know, what was a bad performance for them, but not something which, in my opinion, happens that often.